And I'm Katherine Bradley. I am class of '86 from the Woodrow Wilson School, and I'm currently a university trustee. I actually had my career path shaped by Princeton, and not just by Princeton, but by career services. I came to Washington, D.C. and worked for a congressman the summer before I came to Princeton, and I was very much on an international policy track. And in fact, the internships that I did across the years while I was at Princeton were on the Hill, at the State Department, and at the White House. And then the extra summer in there I spent studying in Italy. But one of those summers, I was planning to go back to the congressional office, but it was the height of the Reagan budget cuts. And they decided that the summer internship positions were not going to be paid that summer because the congressman I worked for decided he was going to have the smallest budget on Capitol Hill. And they didn't tell me this until the end of February. So in the end of February, I marched into career services because I needed a job of some kind and I needed to get paid and pay my rent in Washington. And I pulled three things out of the Washington, D.C. file. One was a job at the Smithsonian that I was too young for and never got. Second one was a job at a PR and communications firm, and I never could get them to return the phone calls. And the third one was a small research firm, and it caught my eye because it said that they needed interns to help do research on the European art market, which sounded like something I could do. I was Woodrow Wilson School and art history. This sounded perfect for me. Well, that little tiny firm that I went and interned at, only because it was the one out of three things left at career services that needed interns still at the end of February, early March of that year, that ended up being the firm that was in its infancy. It was my husband's firm that he had founded. He was still in law school. He was starting it as a scrappy startup, didn't really know whether it would work or not. There were 12 employees the summer that I went there. That's how I met him. That really is what launched my work and my career. I made a pretty unusual decision for a young Princeton woman, and that was that I did go to work with my husband and built that business with him. And it's one of the best decisions I ever made because I had experience going all over the country. I learned how to market, I learned how to interview, I ran HR, I learned the whole series of skills that you need to run any kind of business or any kind of organization. And he and I also built this wonderful thing together, which ended up becoming two public companies, which we sold, one of them in 1999 and one in 2001. But along the way, when the business had become just profitable enough to be able to do something other than survive, we decided we would do a nonprofit project and take our researchers at the firm, it was a best practices research firm, and do a project in the Philippines where David had been a Fulbright scholar, and we would send a team over to study the street children problem over there and then be able to design a solution. And we asked for volunteers who wanted to take a short sabbatical and go over and work on this project, and we had unlimited interest from our staff. And not being a complete dummy, I decided, if we have this much interest in this one project in the Philippines, there's a big unmet demand in our employee force to use the skills and the abilities that they've developed for meaningful civic engagement. So I created CityBridge originally to give structured opportunities to all of our employees to do meaningful things in the community. And I didn't want them going and interning or volunteering places that were dysfunctional organizations where they'd put in their hours. I wanted them actually places where they could use the skills and abilities that they were using in our business to make a difference for other organizations. And so that grew into a very large program that CityBridge continued to run until last year. And then we added a public education practice about 10 years ago. And so that's really the majority of my work now, is that public education practice. I think Catherine Bellinger is going to come to the event a little bit later, and she and I talk often about how to build a meaningful career in the ed reform field, and it's one of the booming areas where incredible careers are going to be made across the next 20 years. And my top piece of advice for young people who are interested in this field is go and work. It doesn't matter what you do for the young stars in this field now, because there is a group of probably 20 people right now around the country who are going to be leading this movement for the next 3 decades. And they're already having an enormous impact, and it really doesn't actually matter if you just make coffee for the summer. To be able to be there and to be able to see them work and to be able to be introduced into their networks can make a huge difference in then building a great career afterwards.